So hi guys, this is Aditya Ganapa. How are you all? Hope you're fine. Today I would like to give you a few tips on how to solve the passages and questions faster as part of your CLAT English preparation. Welcome to LegaLift. So without wasting any further time, let's start reading the passages and solving the questions. So passage 1. The Kohinoor diamond, otherwise known as the Mountain of Light, is worth around £100 million and according to the British monarchy has legendary status within their collection of crown jewels. Set in the Queen Mother's platinum crown for her 1937 coronation, it is a dazzling symbol of the royal family and its history. But there is a catch. India wants it back. A collection of Indian businessmen and Bollywood actors have begun legal proceedings to have the diamond returned home. Such news has been met with outcry in some quarters. Responding to the legal proceedings, the historian Andrew Roberts defended Britain's right to keep the diamond. So these are his words. Let's read that too. Those involved in this ludicrous case should recognize that the British Crown Jewels is precisely the right place for the Kohinoor diamond to reside. In grateful recognition for over 3 centuries of British involvement in India, he said, this period led to the modernization, development, protection, agrarian advance, linguistic unification, and ultimately the democratization of the subcontinent. Robert's argument is born out of colonial apologism and ignorance. To suggest that Britain was a benevolent colonial power is an offensive myth that must be debunked. Britain's most lasting and damaging colonial legacy in the subcontinent was the partition of India into three countries: India, Pakistan, and eventually Bangladesh. Relations between these countries have been fraught ever since. Rather than benevolently ruling India as Roberts suggests, Britain oversaw some of the worst famines in human history. The famine of Bengal on 1943 was so bad that it's been linked to a genocide. In April 1919, thousands of peaceful protesters demonstrated against the British colonial rule in Amritsar. They ended up being blocked into the walled Jallianwala Gardens. Once there, British troops led by General Dyer opened fire indiscriminately on the crowds, killing up to 1,000 protesters. Britain's bloody rule of India was best encapsulated by the September 1857 seizure of Delhi during the now infamous Sepoy Mutiny. The British troops murdered Sepoy troops as well as indiscriminately massacring civilians. One young officer was apparently recorded as saying, the orders were to shoot every soul. It was literally murder. So let's read the questions. Let's read the questions. Based on the passage, what do you think the author thinks of colonialism? So the question generally asks, what does the author think of colonialism? So we need to answer it accordingly. Make sure that you read the question carefully before answering. Options: Indians should be grateful for colonialism. So the passage in its entirety is counter arguing the argument of historian Andrew Roberts in defense of the diamond's position. So A can't be the answer. B. Colonialism ruined the Indian economy and the spirit of its people. This could be the answer. So let's keep it aside and let's read the other options too. Option C. Britain was a benevolent colonial power that paved the way for modernization, development, and democratization of India. This can't be the answer because this is the statement given by the historian Andrew Roberts, but not the author. So it seems like it is the right answer, but it's not. So be careful when you're answering the question and reading the question. So please do read the question carefully. Option D. Colonialism on the one hand led to the emancipation of women in India, but on the other led to the death of many innocent men who fought for independence. So this option talks about emancipation of women in India and independence, but the passage is talking about the ill effects of colonialism, the Kohinoor diamond, and the legal proceedings started by Indian businessmen and Bollywood actors to have the diamond returned home. So D can't be the right option. So option B is the right thing. Yeah, option B. So, second question: which of these can be inferred from the passage? Inferences are refer to कि what do you get from the passage? What do a reader get from the passage after reading the passage? The gist of the passage. So we have to look for an option which gives the gist of the passage about the understanding of the reader and not the author. These are two different things. The author's understanding and the reader's understanding. The reader's understanding should be quite close to the author's understanding. I repeat, the reader's understanding should be quite close to the author's understanding. These two are different. So, if you get the main idea of the passage, the inference questions are quite easy to do. So, getting the main idea of the passage is very essential and paramount in solving the questions faster. So, let's read the options. The legacies of colonialism can be felt even today, as Pakistan and India remain at loggerheads despite a shared history which was shattered by British divide and rule policies. Option B, Britain exported huge amounts of food from India, all for its own consumption. 70,000 tons of rice left the subcontinent, causing the famine. Option B, this option talks about food taken from India by the Britain, but the passage talks about Kohinoor diamond, ill effects of colonialism. Although it talks about famine, but it's not the right option as it doesn't give the gist of the passage. Option B can't be the right option. Option C, colonialism was a far more traumatizing experience for the colonizers than the colonial subjects. This is exactly what opposite to what is stated in the passage. Colonial subjects did face a lot of traumatizing experience by the colonizers. So option C can't be the right answer. Option D, in the early 1920s, the Indian independence movement grew in prominence and received a significant level of sympathy at home and abroad. This option talks about Indian independence movement. This can't be the right option. It is completely irrelevant to what is stated in the passage. So option A is the right answer, as it uh, in in a snippet gives the gist of the passage. I mean, it states what is given in the passage. So option A is the right answer. Question 3, which of these weakens the argument made about the Bengal famine in the passage? Weakening the argument means it should decrease the value of the argument made by the author regarding Bengal famine. So option A talks about 3 million Indians starved to death during Bengal famine. It supports the author's argument as the author stated in the passage ki it is one of the worst famines in human history. So option A can't be the right answer as it strengthens the argument made by the author. Option B, the policies of Winston Churchill, who was Prime Minister at that point in time, were largely to blame for the suffering of the people during the famine. This also kind of strengthens the author's argument. Option C, Britain's negative impact on India did not end after colonialism, presenting itself as a great ally of the region. Britain continued to meddle in Indian politics. This talks about colonialism, but the question asked about Bengal famine, so the option should closely associate itself with what is asked in the question. So make sure that you see this. So option C can't be the right option. Option D, Churchill said this about the Bengal famine of 1943. What did he say? Let us see. I have asked the British Empire to divert emergency funding to India. The Indians are a resilient people and we will not spare any effort in saving the lives of our colonial subjects. So this kind of weakens the argument as it says कि Winston Churchill at that point in time said had the emergency funding diverted to India, we would have saved a lot of colonial subjects and it wouldn't have been the worst famines the humans have ever faced. So option D is the right answer. Question 4. The Sepoy Mutiny could be best described as a gallant attack by the British Empire to protect colonial subjects. No, the Sepoy Mutiny of 1857 was done against colonial subjects to suppress them. So option A can't be the right answer. B. An act of cruelty by the British East India Company on the people of Britain for lack of support. This can't be the right option because it is not on the people of Britain but on the people of India by Britain and not by British East India Company. So option B can't be the right answer. Option C, a brutal attack on the Indian spirit in an attempt to strengthen the British colonial power in India. So option C could be the right answer. So let us check the option D also in order to get the answer. Option D says a strategic move by the British Parliament to influence the Indian government over foreign policy. Foreign policy, the passage never talked about foreign policy. It is irrelevant to what is given in the passage. So option D can't be the right answer. So in this way, we can say that we should stick to the passage. We must stick to what the passage is talking about in order to get the questions right. So option C is the right answer. Fifth question. What does the term ludicrous used by the historian Andrew Roberts in the passage most likely to mean in the context of statement? These are these are often termed as vocab based questions. Therefore, you guys need to improve on your vocabulary, and this can be done by reading newspapers, magazines, and books of genres you wish to. and uh, and this should be done on a daily basis. 20 minutes reading daily could help you with this. So by the way, ludicrous in this context means ridiculous, unreasonable, foolish, so as to give it a thought. So option C is the right answer for the fifth question. So let's go to passage 2 now. The Reserve Bank of India's Monetary Policy Committee has taken a cautious stance by continuing its focus on aligning inflation with its target, maintaining benchmark interest rate steady, and adhering to a stance of withdrawal of accommodation. This decision, supported by a majority, underscores the committee's commitment to a disinflationary monetary policy aimed at stabilizing inflation expectations, particularly during times when repeated price shocks disrupt the disinflation process. The decision to keep the repo rate steady was influenced by strong domestic economic momentum and ongoing uncertainties in food prices, which pose a risk to the overall inflation trajectory. The concern over food prices becoming a broader inflationary pressure was a key factor in this decision. The emphasis on combating inflation comes against the backdrop of fluctuating retail inflation rates, with recent increases driven by significant food price gains. This situation has prompted policymakers to explore the relationship between food prices and core inflation, acknowledging that food inflation can sometimes reflect broader inflation trends due to its significant share in the consumption basket. Such price shocks have the potential to affect overall price stability by shifting inflation expectations. The MPC has slightly adjusted its inflation projection for the upcoming quarter, taking some solace from improvements in agricultural sowing and seasonal adjustments in vegetable prices. However, continuous monitoring of food prices remains essential, as a significant portion of key food items has seen year-on-year price increases. Policymakers are tasked with the challenge of managing inflation to avoid impacting consumer spending and economic growth adversely. The focus remains on achieving a sustainable slowdown in price increases to meet the inflation target, highlighting the importance of vigilance in monetary policy to support economic stability. The MPC's approach reflects a prudent balance between supporting economic growth and ensuring price stability, recognizing the complex interplay between food prices and overall inflation. By maintaining a disinflationary stance, the RBI aims to anchor inflation expectations and navigate the uncertainties surrounding food prices, thereby contributing to the broader goal of economic stability and growth. This careful management of monetary policy underscores the RBI commitment to growth and inflation targets, emphasizing the need for continued vigilance in the face of price volatility. So pause the video and and read it once more in order for you to get the passage clearly, as this is a passage related to economy, which is quite tough to solve as we are not familiar with the economy related terms in the passage. Economy related passages are quite tough to solve. So for this, again, you have to get used to reading these economy related passages, science and technology passages in order to solve the questions better and faster. it improves your vocabulary, it improves your communication skills also. So let's go back to the questions. What is the central theme of the passage? In this question, nothing but asking about the main idea of the passage. Let's read the options now. Option A, RBI support for economic growth via financial policies. No, this can't be the option. Uh, the passage did talk about RBI support for economic growth, but the passage in its entirety talks about inflation, food prices volatility, and aligning inflation with food prices by maintaining benchmark interest rate study and all. This we have to look for an option which aligns with the passage appropriately. So option A can't be the answer. Option B, RBI's focus on inflation control and maintaining interest rates. This could be the right answer because it talks about inflation control and maintaining interest rates as stated in the passage. So option B, let's put it aside and read the other options too. So option C, global trends impact on India's monetary adjustments. So the passage doesn't talk about global trends impact. So option C can be eliminated anyways. So anything which is not related to the passage, we can eliminate it easily. So by elimination also we can get the questions faster and easier, and write by saving time more, so that you can give that time to other passages. Option D, agricultural policies influence on RBI's monetary strategies. No, agricultural policies have been discussed in the passage, but it has not been discussed by its entirety. So main idea generally asks about the gist of the passage in its entirety. So option B gives you that. So option B can be the right answer. As you can see, option B is the right answer. Uh, Question 2. Based on the passage, which fact influenced the MPC's decision to keep the repo rate steady? Anticipated global volatility. Read the options. Anticipated global volatility impacting India's exports. The passage is not talking about, doesn't talk about India's exports. So option A can be eliminated. Option B, domestic momentum and food price uncertainties affecting inflation. So option B could be the right answer as it is given in the passage, as it is this option is stated in the passage and in a very different angle. Go to the passage by yourself and check it for yourself as we are running on time. So option C, employment rate involvement boosting disposable income and spending. And again, employment, the passage doesn't talk about employment rate, income and spending. So we can eliminate it that way. Option C is eliminated. Option D, expected high fiscal deficit from infrastructure and welfare spending. So the passage doesn't talk about welfare spending and infrastructure, but it talks about inflation and food prices and the relationship between inflation and food prices. So option D can be eliminated. Option B is the right answer. Yeah, option B is the right answer. Question 3. What evidence does the passage provide to justify MPC's focus on inflation? So let's read the options. The successful implementation of previous monetary policies had led to stabilized economic growth rates in the past decade. So, and again, the passage doesn't talk about the past year's economic growth. It doesn't even compare this implementation of decisions on past previous year policies and previous on the past decade's economic growth rates. So A can't be the right option. Option B, the repeated price shocks and their potential to disrupt the disinflation process, particularly in the context of food prices. This could be the right answer as it is stated in the passage. It is relevant to the passage. Let's put it aside. Option C, a detailed analysis of international monetary policy trends and their success in managing inflation and developed economies. And again, this doesn't talk about the option is talking about international monetary policy trends and managing inflation in developed economies. It talks about international monetary policy trends in developed countries. So it can't be the right option as it is comparing. So option C can be eliminated. Option D, the recent improvements in technology and productivity within the agricultural sector reducing overall production costs. This option is a part of the passage but doesn't justify the MPC's focus on inflation. So option D can't be the right answer. Option B is the right answer as it straight away discusses and justifies the MPC's focus on inflation on on and discussing about why did MPC actually focused on inflation. So option B is the right answer. Question 4. Which word is synonymous with disinflationary as used in the passage? Again, there is this vocab based question. So you need to develop your vocabulary as early as possible in order for you to get the grip of it with grit and determination. Disinflationary, matlab stabilizing. You can also go into the passage and answer it according to the context of the passage. So some people do it and it did work for them. Maybe you can do it, maybe it will work for you. Let's hope. Disinflationary is stabilizing. And read the question carefully, and sometimes it would be asked like which word is antonymous with disinflationary as used in the passage. So synonymous and antonymous are quite different, are quite opposite with each other. So look at it carefully, read the question carefully to answer the questions. Fifth question. What conclusion can be drawn about the Reserve Bank of India's monetary policy stance? So it is asking about conclusion. Conclusion and main idea are quite different. So let's read the options. Shift towards looser policies anticipating global downturn, and it again talks about global turndown, which is not discussed in the passage, irrelevant to the passage. So option A can't be the answer. Option B, commitment to stringent inflation targets for economic growth. I mean, it is discussing what is stated in the passage, but it doesn't conclude the RBI's monetary policy stance. Option C, cautious, flexible approach for inflation control and growth focus. Option C could be the answer. Let's read option D, preference for rapid expansion over maintaining inflation targets. So option C is the right answer as it asked about conclusion about RBI's monetary policy stance. Be careful, it doesn't talk about MPC's monetary policy stance but RBI's monetary policy stance. Read the passage carefully and answer the questions carefully. So let's do passage 3 now. It's the last passage I think in this slide. So let's do it. Let's read the passage. Tom Jones was a plump 16-year-old with frosty brown hair topped off by a brimless straw hat. His pants appeared to have been turned inside out and outside in, upside down and upside up, and repeatedly darned, patched, and redarned until a number of pairs of pants had been made using time, labor, and sufficient cloth. Regarding the boots, he may have inherited them from a previous generation's pauper, as his lower limbs were not completely without protection. But did it really matter to him that his clothing was shabby, garish, and hideous, or that his boots, toes, and slides allowed the rich, deep soil to seep in? Was he not an Indian who roamed the prairies near his frontier home? A squatter sovereign or the son of one? He was unaware of the latest fashion and didn't give much thought to the fit of his clothes, though he did occasionally wish they were a little more comfortable and redefined. As I mentioned earlier, he lived on a prairie. The family domain was unpretentious nevertheless. The son of a squatter cast a disgruntled face around him. I do wish I could see more of the world and take action for myself, he said in a soliloquy. Here we have been moving around a lot, doing nothing more than growing a few potatoes and some corn, and living in a wretched cabin with few neighbors, and no schools. We should not spend our entire day like this. I believe we were made something better. Maybe the blanks uh, it represents ki some question might come regarding the blanks. Let us see. We were something better, and as the minister told us on Sunday, we ought try to be somebody and not float as the stick on the stream. Mother's mind, I'm sure, isn't and never was, or for father. At this point, he paused and thought for a moment, as if attempting to solve a puzzle. Tom's well-worn hoe had brought the abundant returns into the daylight, covering the rows of the hills. But what intrigued Tom the most at that moment was not the quantity, quality, or size of the potatoes. He was disturbed by the realization that they were all out of the ground, that the corn had been gathered and staked, the pumpkins were ready to be sheltered, and that the fall chores could be completed by the sun setting that afternoon. This was because he had recently started to wonder what lay ahead for him in the future. To some extent, he had realized that the future would largely depend on his choices, as well as severe discontent with both the past and present filled his heart with discontent. Let's go back to the questions. It's quite the passage is quite vocab heavy, and uh, the author did use poetic references in the para to make it more complex. कोई बात नहीं. With practice over time, you'll get it. Let's get back to the questions. The passage's central idea centers on. So again, this question is asking about is talking about the main idea of the passage. About 50% of the paragraphs talk about the main idea of the passage only. So it's very important to get the main idea of the passage, not only to um, solve the main idea questions, but also to solve the inference, strengthen, weaken questions faster and easier. So let's read the options now. Giving a brief account of the protagonist's circumstances, this could be the right answer because it did talk about Tom Jones, his browny hair, his lifestyle, and yeah. So option, uh, so let's see the other options. Option B, explaining how Prairie's youth had become impoverished. No, this can't be the option because it talks about only Tom Jones. So option C, outlining the possibilities and obstacles involved in farming. It did outline the obstacles and difficulties involved in farming, but of Tom Jones' family, not of farming as a whole. So option C can't be the answer. Option D describes Tom's friendship with the son of the squatter. No, this can't be the option because it did talk about Tom Tom's lifestyle, his browny hair and all. So option A is the right answer. Let's get back to the second question. Which of the following could be the uh, passage's suitable title? A Global Farmer's Life, Tom Jones' Life and Dreams, A Prairie's Friendship, A Heaven for Daydreamers. So the passage talks about Tom Jones' life and dreams. So option B is the right answer. Question 3. Which of the following words from the passage means an act of speaking one's thoughts aloud when by oneself or regardless of any hearers, especially by a character in a play? So this is also again a different kind of asking vocab, the words. This is a type of vocab based question. So option A is the right answer, soliloquy. Soliloquy is a person who speaks to himself with no hearers around. So option A is the right answer. Question 4. Tom Jones was a plump 16-year-old with frosty brown hair, topped off by a brimless straw hat. His pants appeared to have been turned inside out and outside in, upside down and upside up, and repeatedly darned, patched, and redarned until a number of pairs of pants had been made using time, labor, and sufficient cloth. The above lines reflect which of the following literary devices. This option A, litotis. Option B, hyperbole. Option C, allegory. Option D, oxymoron. So the right answer is option D, hyperbole. So in order to learn, so we'll learn literary devices in the further classes. So coming on to question 5, I believe we were made something better. So we already talked about this. He is asking us to fill in the blanks with the right options given, with the right words given in the following options. So here option C would be the right answer if you go through it. I believe we were made for something better, and as the minister told us Sunday, we ought to try and be somebody and not float along as a stick on the stream. So question 5 is done. So question 6, which of the following grammatical tool is being used in the passage? Tom Jones was a plump 16-year-old with frosty brown hair, topped off by a brimless straw hat. So in this sentence, it is describing the characteristics of Tom Jones. So it could be option B, adjective. Adjective refers to, it gives the characteristic of the quality of a person. So I think we are done. Thank you so much.